No one knew why the Fackler fortune dragonborn, an ancient species said to bend probability itself, chose a lone human soldier that day. But the galaxy still talks about what happened next. Because when a creature born from shimmering luck shards walked beside Sergeant Jamin Park, reality shifted. Shots that should have landed missed. Doors that should have stayed locked opened. And in the darkest hour, when every ally had fallen silent, fate itself seemed to lean toward one stubborn human who refused to break. If this kind of story hits that sweet spot between awe and adrenaline for you, tap the like button. And hey, if you love HFY tales where humans do the impossible, go ahead and subscribe so you don't miss future adventures. Share it with someone who enjoys a good, humans are terrifyingly lucky moment. Let's dive in. The drop ship rattled so violently that Jamin Park wondered if the metal frame was about to shake itself into a confession. Storm belts roared outside, painting the viewports with a blur of burnt red dust and shattered debris drifting in the wind. Below them lay Helion 3, once a thriving trade moon, now a broken scar across the sector map. No one needed to say out loud. The planet looked like someone had dropped a star on it and walked away. Jamin adjusted the straps, biting into his shoulders. Recon mission. Simple in theory. Check the crash site of the diplomatic envoy. Confirm casualties, and pull any survivors out before the fleet arrived to secure the airspace. Clean job. He'd read the briefing 3 times, like the words would magically make the mission less unsettling. Across from him, the squad looked just as uneasy. Silent, focused, fingers tapping gear in those tiny nervous rhythms, soldiers never quite lost. The air smelled faintly of ozone and stress. Always a comforting combination. You breathing, Park? Ramos asked from beside him. Trying to, Jamin said, forcing a half-smile. A hard jolt threw everyone forward for a moment as the ship punched through the last layer of the atmosphere. And just like that, Helion 3 revealed itself properly. The dust storm parted briefly, like a curtain opening on a stage. The envoy's command tower lay ahead, broken in half buried. Its gleaming white hull burned black and twisted. Something massive had torn it apart from the inside. The ship touched down with a hiss. Heat surged inside the cabin, followed by a sharp mechanical tone. Go! Ramos barked. Jamin's boots hit the ground first. The air outside was dry and metallic, humming faintly with leftover static from whatever vent tore through this region. The dust stung the edges of his exposed skin. And then, that feeling, that strange, subtle buzz at the base of his skull, as if invisible fingers tapped once against the back of his mind. A sensation he instantly hated because it felt intentional. He scanned the ruins. Nothing moved except sand curling around metal skeletons of collapsed structures. Ramos gestured. Spread out. Life sign sweep. 2-minute radius. Jamin nodded and started toward the crumpled left wing of the envoy's structure. The entrance was a jagged slit of torn steel. He slid inside. The air changed immediately. Cooler. Still. And resonant. A soft crystalline hum drifted along the corridor. Quiet, melodic, almost like someone running their fingers over the rim of a glass. It didn't echo. It pulsed. Human tech didn't make sounds like that. Machines didn't breathe like that. And despite everything telling him to back out slowly and call it in, Jamin stepped deeper inside. His helmet light swept across charred control panels, shattered conduits, and symbols etched into the wall. Ambassadorial markings scorched by heat. Something violent had moved through here. Then his beam caught movement. A silhouette curled in a pocket of shadow, scales glinting like sharp chips of emerald and gold. Not reptilian, crystalline. Like every scale was carved from fortune itself. Jamin froze. His breath stopped. A fortune dragonborn. One of the rarest species in the known galaxy. Half myth, half documented anomaly, and fully capable of bending probability in ways humans still debated in classrooms and military briefings. This one was small, maybe adolescent, its breathing shallow, almost trembling. A long crack ran along its shoulder, glowing faintly like a fractured gemstone. Jamin didn't move, but the creature did. Its eyes, strange multifaceted orbs that shimmered like shifting dice, opened and locked onto him. And in that instant, He felt something incredible wash over him. Recognition, not in a mystical sense, in a targeted, deliberate sense, like it had been waiting for him. The Dragonborn rose slowly, wincing as the cracked scales pulled apart. It made no sound, but the hum in the air changed pitch, becoming something like curiosity tinged with relief. Hi, Jin-Min whispered, even though he knew talking to unknown alien life was not in any manual he'd ever studied. The Dragonborn took a step forward, then another. Park, status? Ramos' voice crackled through comms. J-Min swallowed. I, found something. Living. Human? No, and you're going to want to see this. Before he could blink, the creature suddenly darted toward him, but not aggressively. It moved in a sharp blur of gold and green, stopping just a meter away, close enough that he could feel the warmth radiating from his fractured shoulder. A wave of dizziness hit him. Probability distortion, his training whispered. Being near a fortune Dragonborn was like standing at the center of a cosmic coin flip. Easy, he murmured, raising his hands. The creature leaned his head forward, touching his wrist with the tip of its snout. A soft ring, like glass chiming, filled the corridor, and reality shifted. His helmet HUD flickered, then recalibrated. Door schematics updated. Pathways highlighted that shouldn't have been accessible. His scanner showed sudden spikes. Micro-pathways opening through collapsed sections. Systems that were dead blinking alive for a fraction of a second. The creature wasn't just sensing him. It was synchronizing with him. Then the comms exploded. Contact! Contact! Incoming hostiles, multiple, unknown signatures. Park, get back here now. J-Min jerked back. On my way. The Dragonborn pressed his forehead against his chest. A flare of warm gold erupted around them, and the humming grew sharper, almost like a warning. Are you trying to keep me here? He whispered. But the creature didn't step back. Instead, its cracked scales brightened, as if pulling energy from somewhere deeper than physics. A sudden blast rocked the entire envoy hull. Metal screamed. Dust ricocheted off the corridor walls. J-Min instinctively dodged falling debris, only to realize something unnatural had happened. The beam that should have crushed him bounced off a dangling cable and lodged itself harmlessly into the floor. That wasn't luck. That was manipulation. The creature nudged him again, more urgent this time. Okay, he whispered. You're coming with me. He scooped the Dragonborn into his arms. It weighed less than expected. Light, airy, like holding living crystal. As he turned, the corridor behind him suddenly collapsed. Not in a natural way. Almost like someone, or something, wanted to block anything from chasing them. J-Min didn't question it. He ran. Outside, the battlefield lit up with plasma streaks. Ramos yelled orders. Soldiers fired back against dark shapes darting between the ruins. Something fast, something aggressive, something that definitely wasn't in the mission brief. And when J-Min emerged from the wreckage, holding the glowing Dragonborn, every head snapped toward him. Ramos' eyes widened. Park, what the hell is that? J-Min didn't have an answer, but the Dragonborn did. The air rippled around them, glowing like luck itself was stepping into formation. And from that moment on, fate refused to leave his side. The first shot came so close to J-Min's head that he felt the air split. Not heat, air, like reality flinched. He didn't have time to think about how close it was, because the second shot curved, literally curved. It bent around a broken pillar and went wide, sizzling harmlessly into a pile of scrap. Ramos yelled, "What kind of weapons are those?" J-Min didn't answer. He couldn't, because as enemy silhouettes darted through the dust storm, tall, sharp, insectal. Something strange happened around him. The air shimmered with tiny flecks of gold. Invisible currents twisted like dice tumbling in slow motion. Probability didn't just shift. It leaned. J-Min felt the Dragonborn tighten in his arms. Its cracked scales glowed brighter, the fracture along its shoulder pulsing like a heartbeat syncing with his own. Another shot. This one should have hit Ramos, dead center. Instead, at the last second, Ramos tripped on a piece of debris he swore wasn't there a moment ago and dropped out projectile's path. He landed face first in the sand. What who? Okay, what just saved my life? The answer stood quietly in Jae-min's arms, humming like a living tuning fork. One of the insectal attackers sprinted forward, legs stabbing into the sand with disturbing precision. Its 4 crimson eyes locked onto Jae-min, mandibles vibrating a challenge. Jae-min lifted his rifle, but he wasn't the one in control. The Dragonborn pressed harder against his chest, scales flaring, and suddenly the world slowed, focused. Paths of possibility, open like threads stretching between outcomes. A breeze kicked up dust at the attacker's feet. A metal shard loosened above it. A fragment of the crashed envoy teetered in the storm. Jae-min fired once. He missed, but probability didn't. The bullet ricocheted off a pipe, skimmed a broken console, bounced again, and struck the attacker directly between the eyes. The creature dropped instantly. Ramos stared, jaw hanging. "Park, you're not that good." "Yeah," Jae-min panted. "I know." The attackers regrouped, forming a semicircle. Their armor was angular, insectoid, reflecting the storm in jagged reflections. These weren't raiders. This was something organized, disciplined, and furious. A name surfaced in Jae-min's mind. Krylok Collective, a hive species with a reputation for erasing diplomatic convoys to prevent alliances that threatened their territory. The envoy crash suddenly made perfect sense. "Park!" Ramos snapped. "Get that thing behind cover." Before Jae-min could move, the ground shook. A Krylok fired a plasma bolt. The beam shredded the sand, racing directly toward him. The Dragonborn lifted its head. Everything stopped. For a heartbeat, just one, the world fell silent. Dust froze midair. Sparks from nearby gunfire hung like suspended stars. Then the plasma bolt twisted sideways, veering off its straight path and slamming harmlessly into the remains of a cargo crate. The Dragonborn slumped in his arms, exhausted from the effort. Jae-min whispered, "You're helping me?" Its faceted eyes blinked once, and somehow he understood. Yes. The Krylok roared in frustration. Their formation shifted. They started advancing. Ramos cursed. "We're getting overrun. Fall back to the ridge. Radio the ship for immediate evac." But as they ran, it became painfully clear the Krylok had planned for this. Drones burst from the ground in sharp, metallic swarms. Bursts of blue energy crackled through the air, turning the field into a maze of death. And yet, none of it touched Jae-min. A drone that should have intercepted him was clipped by flying rubble. A bolt that should have hit his leg passed through a hole in the armor plate at just the right angle. A collapsing support beam fell backward instead of forward. It was absurd, ridiculous, impossible, and somehow happening anyway. He shouted over the chaos. "Ramos, something's bending probability. We need to protect the Dragonborn." "You think?" Ramos yelled, diving behind a half-melted barricade. The squad formed a defensive line, firing in tight bursts. Sparks and plasma filled the air. The Krylok pushed forward with terrifying efficiency. Then something new appeared. A towering Krylok commander stepped out of the storm, armor reinforced with black alloy, limbs humming with charge, 4 arms, 2 heavy cannons, a glare that felt like a blade pressed against the soul. Jae-min's stomach dropped. "That thing," Ramos whispered, "is designed to kill squads." The commander raised one arm. Energy built at the barrel, and the Dragonborn in Jae-min's arm started shaking, not with fear but warning. The pressure around them changed. The hum in the air sharpened. The crack in its shoulder brightened to blinding gold. "Wait, no, don't push yourself," Jae-min pleaded. But the Dragonborn had already decided. The commander fired. A blinding beam of white-blue plasma tore across the battlefield, wide, unstoppable. The Dragonborn lunged from Jae-min's arms, just slightly, touching the beam's path with the tip of its claw. Reality flinched. The beam split into 2 threads, curving around Jae-min's squad like water flowed around a stone, slamming into ground far behind them. The Dragonborn collapsed. Jae-min caught it mid-fall. Hey, stay with me." The little creature's glow flickered. Its scales dimmed as its breathing grew shallow. It wasn't built for combat. It wasn't built for sustained manipulation of probability at this scale. It had done it anyway. For him. The commander screeched in fury and charged. J-Min lifted his rifle, but he knew he couldn't take that monster alone. The squad was pinned. The Dragonborn was weakening. And probability wasn't something you could keep borrowing forever. The commander leapt. Claws out, cannons glowing. A fortress of death in motion. Park, move. Ramos screamed. But J-Min didn't move. He stepped forward. In that instant, something shifted inside him. Not mystical, not divine, but deeply, stubbornly human. He refused to let the Dragonborn die. He raised his weapon. You want me? Come earn it. The commander swiped, and its arm snagged on a length of dangling cable, twisting its landing just enough to send it crashing into the sand. Ramos blinked. No way. J-Min didn't question it. He fired. The squad fired. The commander roared and stumbled under the barrage. Sparks ripped across its armor. A final burst caught in the throat, sending it collapsing into the dust. Silence fell. Just the storm. The heavy breathing of exhausted soldiers. The hum of energy dissipating. Ramos approached slowly. Park, that thing chose you. J-Min looked down at the unconscious Dragonborn, cradled in his arms. He felt the faint, fading warmth of its scales. It saved us, he whispered. No, Ramos said. It saved you. We just got dragged along for the ride. J-Min stared out at the storm. Something deeper settled in his chest. Not fear, not confusion. Responsibility. Whatever the Dragonborn was, whatever it needed, whatever danger was coming next, he wasn't letting go. Not now. Not ever. And somewhere in the shadows of the storm, multiple red eyes blinked open, watching a human, and the creature who bent fate together, hunting them. The storm quieted just enough for the squad to regroup, but the silence that followed wasn't comforting. It felt like the air itself was holding its breath. J-Min knelt beside the wounded Fortune Dragonborn, brushing dust from its shimmering scales. The once bright glow beneath the cracks had dimmed to a faint, trembling flicker. Ramos crouched beside him. How bad? J-Min listened to the creature's breathing, a soft, uneven rasp. It pushed itself too far, and it was already injured before we even got here. He swallowed, throat tight. It won't survive another hit. Ramos exhaled slowly. Then we make sure it doesn't have to. Before J-Min could respond, a low, rumbling vibration rolled through the ground, like distant thunder. Except Helion, 3 had no real thunderstorms. J-Min knew instinctively. The Krylock weren't done yet. He scanned the swirling dust. They're surrounding us. How many? Ramos asked. J-Min shook his head. Enough. The squad formed a defensive circle, weapons raised. The wind shifted, revealing movement, multiple silhouettes emerging from the storm. Tall, insectal, dozens of them. Their armor gleamed with tactical lights that cut through the haze like the eyes of predators. Then the biggest of them stepped forward, towering even larger than the commander they destroyed. Plates of obsidian black carapace covered its body, etched with ritual scars that glowed like molten cracks. Its arms ended in serrated energy blades, and its mandibles clicked with slow, deliberate rhythm. A prime, Ramos whispered. They sent a prime after us? The Krylock prime raised a clawed hand. The swarm halted instantly. No battle cries. No advance. Just cold, calculating silence. Then a deep, vibrating growl carried through the storm, something like a challenge or a demand. J-Min didn't speak the Krylock language, but he felt the meaning like a punch to the chest. Give us the Dragonborn, or die with it, Ramos muttered. Well, that's not happening. J-Min tightened his hold on the creature. It stirred weakly, opening its multifaceted eyes to look at him, even exhausted. The Dragonborn seemed to understand the situation perfectly. Its gaze held fear, but also trust, and that trust lit a fire in J-Min's chest hotter than any plasma bolt ever could. He rose slowly, holding the Dragonborn close. You hear that? He whispered to the creature. They think you're alone. The Dragonborn lifted a trembling claw to his chest, tapping once, like a heartbeat shared between species. J-Min squared his shoulders. No one touches you. he said softly. The Krylock Prime screeched an order. The swarm charged. Chaos erupted. Gunfire cracked through the storm. Blue plasma streaked across the battlefield. The squad held their ground, firing in coordinated bursts, dropping enemy after enemy. But for every Krylock that fell, 2 more emerged. They were being pushed back, inch by inch. Jamin ducked behind a fallen pillar as a plasma bolt scorched past his cheek. The Dragonborn trembled violently, its glow sputtering. "Stay with me," he whispered. Another bolt struck the pillar, carving a glowing scar down its length. Ramos yelled, "Park, we can't hold this position. Fall back, now." But the Krylock Prime blocked every escape route, advancing with heavy, deliberate steps. It raised both arms, charging its blades with a terrifying whine. Ramos cursed. "It's going to cut us in half." Jamin took a breath, and for the first time since this nightmare began, he didn't look at the swarm. He looked at the creature in his arms. The Dragonborn's eyes flickered. Weak, fading. "Hey!" Jamin whispered, leaning close. "You helped me. You bent reality itself for me. Now it's my turn." The creature blinked once, questioning. Jamin gave a faint smile. "Yeah, humans do that sometimes." He set the Dragonborn gently behind a section of collapsed hull. Then he rose, standing between the creature and the incoming Prime. The Krylock roared and lunged. Jamin opened fire, but he wasn't firing for luck this time. He moved with purpose, using every piece of debris, every line of sight, every broken structure as if the battlefield itself were a weapon he had trained with for years. The Prime's blade slashed down, a diagonal sweep meant to cleave him in 2. Jamin dove sideways, rolled across the sand, and fired at the Prime's knee joint. Sparks burst from the armor, staggering the behemoth for 1 precious second. The squad followed up, unloading everything they had. Still not enough. The Prime surged forward, shrugging off the barrage. It swung its arm again, straight toward Jamin's head. And that's when something unexpected happened. Not luck, not probability. Something human. Jamin ducked under the strike, planted his boot, and drove forward with a shoulder tackle that shouldn't have done anything, except the Prime had shifted its weight in just the wrong moment. The massive creature stumbled. A normal stumble. A real stumble. Not manipulated. Not engineered. Just imperfect. Ramos yelled, "He's open!" The squad fired again, heavy rounds slamming into the exposed gap. The Prime screeched in pain, staggering backward. But even wounded, it was still a mountain of muscle and chitin. It recovered, raising its blades for one final, killing blow. Jamin looked toward the collapsed hull where he'd hidden the Dragonborn. "I'm keeping you safe," he whispered. Then he stepped into the Prime's attack. The blade came down, but Jamin moved with the precision of a soldier who'd spent years dancing with death. He twisted under the strike, grabbed a section of cable hanging from the wreckage, and looped it around the Prime's nearest arm. Then he jumped off a jutting piece of metal and pulled with every ounce of strength he had. The cable tightened. The Prime roared. Its arm was yanked backward just enough to expose the pulsing node at the base of its neck, its stability node. Ramos shouted, "Park! Do it!" Jamin fired. The bullet hit the node. A second shot followed, then a third. The Prime staggered, wavered, then dropped to its knees. The squad didn't wait. They unleashed everything they had. The Prime collapsed with a seismic crash, shaking the ground and scattering dust in a massive plume. The battlefield fell silent. No more skittering claws. No more plasma. No more Krylock. Just wind. Ramos stumbled toward him, panting. "Park, you madman, you actually." But Jamin had already sprinted back to the hull. The Dragonborn lay where he'd left it, still trembling, still flickering. He knelt beside it. "Hey, it's over. We made it." The creature reached out a tiny claw, tapping his wrist. The glow pulsed softly, like gratitude. And something else. A faint, warm wave expanded from the creature, flowing into Jamin's chest. A gentle hum filled the air, different from before. Not a weapon, not a warning, a blessing. The Dragonborn's glow stabilized. The crack along its shoulder sealed slightly. Not fully, but enough to stop the flickering. Ramos approached quietly. "What did it just do?" J-Min exhaled. "Trusted me." The ship's extraction beacon activated in the distance. Reinforcements were arriving, cutting through the storm. As they lifted the Dragonborn aboard, it curled against J-Min's chest. Safe, calm, alive. And for the first time since Helion 3 turned into a war zone, J-Min finally understood. The Dragonborn hadn't chosen him because he was lucky. It had chosen him because he made his own luck and fought like hell for those who couldn't fight for themselves. Humans weren't predictable. Humans weren't bound to probability. Humans were dangerous because they decided their own fate. And on that ruined world, with a small crystalline creature resting in his arms, the galaxy learned a truth it would whisper for generations. When a human and a fortune Dragonborn walk together, not even destiny can stand in their way.